Watch this space. The varied perspectives. These are the journalisms by way of analytic aggregation, illuminated from the critical research of a historiographer, neither from the Oriental nor the Occidental. Your engagement through a like, a share, or sub will accelerate us at warp speed towards the continuation of our mission to truthfully go where no news will have been going before.
Engage impulse engines. Engage. Engage.
Engage.
Engage. Engage. Engage. Engage.
Engage.
Engage. Engage. Engage. Engage. Engage. Engage.
Captain. Engage emergency override.
Engage. Engage. Engage.
Engage forward shields, 35%.
Engage.
Engage the cloaking device.
Engage.
Of them. Engage them in conversation.
Engage. Engage.
Assad hosts Saudi foreign minister. Watch this space. From the cradle, Saudi foreign minister meets Assad to discuss political solution. Saudi Foreign Minister Prince Faisal bin Farhan's visit to Damascus is an attempt to end Syria's isolation in the region. Syrian President Bashar al-Assad held talks with Saudi Foreign Minister Prince Faisal bin Farhan in Damascus on Tuesday, 18 April, in the first visit of a top diplomat from regional power, Saudi Arabia, to Syria, since ties were cut following the start of the U.S.-backed war on Syria. The Saudi foreign minister said in a statement that Prince Faisal's visit falls within the framework of the kingdom's keenness and interest to reach a political solution to the Syrian crisis that ends all its repercussions and preserves Syria's unity, security, stability, and its Arab identity, and restores it to its Arab surroundings in a way that achieves the good of its brotherly people. President Assad said the kingdom's open and realistic policies benefited the region and that an Arab role is necessary for supporting the Syrian people to overcome all the repercussions of the war on Syria, stabilize the situation, and liberate all Syrian territory. According to Reuters, Foreign Minister bin Farhan's visit is the most significant step yet toward ending Syria's decade-long regional isolation, and at a time of wider rapprochement in the region. Bin Farhan's visit followed the Saudi kingdom's invite to President Assad to attend an Arab League summit due to take place next month in Riyadh. On Friday, Gulf Arab foreign ministers and their counterparts from Egypt, Iraq, and Jordan discussed Syria's possible return to the League. Following the launch of the U.S.-backed insurgency to topple the Syrian government in 2011, Syria's membership in the Arab League was suspended. Saudi Arabia played a prominent role in the U.S. regime change effort by funding extremist armed groups, including ISIS and Jaish al-Islam. The Syrian army with the help of Iran and Russia, eventually defeated the insurgency, but not before losing control of large sections of the country in the north and the northeast. The re-establishment of relations between Riyadh and Damascus is part of a wider trend that's also seen Saudi Arabia and regional Islamic rival Iran agree to restore ties. While several Arab countries have also re-established ties with Damascus, Qatar remains opposed to normalization and does not wish to see Syria readmitted to the Arab League. Qatar also armed and funded extremist insurgent groups during the U.S.-led war on Syria, including the al-Qaeda-affiliated Nusra Front, now known as Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, which still occupies Syria's northern Idlib province. But while Syria's international isolation is slowly ending, Zionists find themselves increasingly isolated. Zionist Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has hoped to normalize relations with Saudi Arabia following his re-election to the prime minister post in December in an effort to jointly confront Iran. However, the Saudi move to restore relations with Iran and Syria with the Saudi move to restore relations with Iran and Syria, a future normalization with the Zionists now appears in doubt. And from Globe World News Echo, Faisal bin Farhan in Damascus for a comprehensive settlement. He discussed with al-Assad steps to restore Syria to its Arab surroundings. Yesterday, Tuesday, the Saudi Foreign Minister Prince Faisal bin Farhan discussed with Syrian President Bashar al-Assad steps to achieve a comprehensive political settlement in Syria that would contribute to its return to its Arab surroundings, for aid to reach all regions of Syria, stressing the importance of taking further measures to contribute to stabilizing the situation throughout the Syrian territories. The keenness and attention the kingdom attaches to reaching a political solution to the Syrian crisis that ends all its repercussions and preserves the unity of Syria, the Saudi minister has stressed to the Syrian president the need to create conditions for the safe return of refugees and displaced Syrians to the areas. At the beginning of the reception, the Saudi foreign minister conveyed the greetings of the custodian of the two holy mosques, King Salman bin Abdulaziz and Prince Mohammed bin Salman bin Abdulaziz, Crown Prince and Prime Minister, to the Syrian president, and their wishes to the brotherly government and people of Syria for security and stability. While the Syrian president conveyed his greetings and appreciation to him, to the custodian of the two holy mosques, the Crown Prince and Prime Minister, and to the government and people of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, more progress and continued progress and development. The Syrian Arab news agency stated that al-Assad discussed with Prince Faisal the relations between the two countries and other political Arab and international files. It quoted al-Assad as saying that healthy relations between Syria and the kingdom are the normal state that should be. And from freshheadline.com, Saudi Arabia Foreign Minister Prince Faisal bin Farhan visits Syria as relations thaw. Saudi Arabia's top diplomat arrived in the Syrian capital on Tuesday, the first official visit by an official from the kingdom in more than a decade, the Syrian government said. The visit by Foreign Minister Prince Faisal bin Farhan to Damascus follows that of his Syrian counterpart Faisal Miqdad to Riyadh last week. Syrian state news agency Sana reported that after his arrival, the Saudi top diplomat was received by Syrian President Bashar Assad. A statement published by Saudi state media said that bin Farhan's visit came within the framework of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia's keenness and interest to reach a political solution to the Syrian crisis that would end all its repercussions and preserve Syria's unity, security, stability, and Arab identity, and restore to its Arab surroundings. China offers to facilitate peace talks between Israel and Palestine. The kingdom cut off diplomatic relations with Damascus in 2012. After the outbreak of Syria's civil war, Syria and Saudi Arabia said last week they were moving toward restoring consular services and resuming flights between the two countries. Syria was widely shunned by Arab governments over Assad's brutal crackdown on protesters in a 2011 uprising that descended into civil war. The breakdown in relations culminated with Syria being ousted from the Arab League. And I will push back on that framing there, so I'm going to continue to read this with caution. Yeah, and so, however, in recent years, as Assad consolidated control over most of the country, Syria's neighbors have begun to take steps toward rapprochement. The overtures picked up pace since the massive February 6 earthquake in Turkey and Syria, and the Chinese brokered the establishment of ties between Saudi Arabia and Iran, which had backed opposing sides in the Syrian conflict. Saudi Arabia is hosting the next Arab League summit in May, when Syria's membership is widely expected to be on the table. Some members, mainly Qatar, have opposed Damascus's return to the organization. EAM Jaishankar appreciates his Saudi Arabian counterpart Faisal bin Farhan's assessment of Sudan's situation. And on Friday, a group of regional leaders from the Arab Gulf countries, as well as Egypt, Jordan, and Iraq, convened in Saudi Arabia to discuss Syria's political fate. Following the meeting, the group promised to continue talks to reach a political solution to the Syrian conflict, but stopped short of endorsing its return to the Arab League. And from Dubai Week, Faisal bin Farhan in Damascus for comprehensive settlement. Yesterday, Saudi Foreign Minister Prince Faisal bin Farhan discussed with Syrian President Bashar al-Assad steps to reach a comprehensive political settlement in Syria. Syria emphasizes the importance of taking further steps to contribute to the stabilization of the situation through the Syrian regions. The interest and attention paid by the kingdom to achieving a political solution to the Syrian crisis ends all its consequences and protects the unity of Syria. The Saudi minister stressed to the Syrian president the need to create conditions for the safe return of refugees and displaced Syrians to their regions. At the beginning of the reception, the Saudi foreign minister conveyed the greetings and wishes of the custodian of the two holy mosques, King Salman bin Abdulaziz, and Crown Prince and Prime Minister Prince Mohammed bin Salman bin Abdulaziz, to the Syrian president. The Syrian president expressed his congratulations and appreciation to the Brotherhood government and people of Syria for security and stability. Custodian of the two holy mosques, Crown Prince and Prime Minister, and to the government and people of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, further progress and continued progress and development. The Syrian Arab news agency said that al-Assad discussed relations between the two countries and other political, Arab, and international files with Prince Faisal. It quoted al-Assad as saying that healthy relations between Syria and the kingdom were the normal state to be in. And from the Arab Weekly, Saudi Foreign Minister visits Assad, pushing ahead with normalization with Syria. Syrian President Bashar al-Assad received Saudi Foreign Minister Prince Faisal bin Farhan in Damascus on Tuesday, in the most significant step yet towards ending Syria's decade-long regional isolation at a time of wider rapprochement in the region. It was the first visit by a top diplomat from Arab powerhouse Saudi Arabia to Damascus since ties were ruptured following Assad's deadly crackdown on protesters in 2011, violence which escalated into a decade-long civil war. Again, I'm going to push back on that, and maybe we can investigate that in future stories. The meeting discussed steps needed for a political solution to Syria's The meeting discussed steps needed for a political solution to Syria's conflict. that would pressure or preserve its Arab identity and return it to its Arab surroundings, Saudi state media said. Assad said the kingdom's open and realistic policies benefited the region, Syria's state news agency reported. The statements made no mention of an Arab League summit that Riyadh is due to host next month. On Friday, Gulf Arab foreign ministers and their counterparts from Egypt, Iraq, and Jordan discussed Syria's possible return to the body at a meeting in Saudi Arabia, but no agreement was reached. Following the eruption of the civil war in 2011, Syria's membership in the Arab League was suspended, and several Gulf states, including Saudi Arabia, began backing rebel groups fighting to oust Assad from power. Assad, with the help of his main allies Iran and Russia, later regained control over much of Syria. Saudi Arabia has said in recent months that isolating him was not working. The two sides agreed to resume diplomatic ties, and sources had earlier told Reuters that Ben Farhan would travel to Damascus to invite Assad to the Arab League summit. While some countries, including the United Arab Emirates, have also mended ties with Damascus, others, such as Qatar, remain opposed to normalization and to readmitting Syria to the Arab League in the absence of a political solution to the conflict. Syrian's foreign minister, who recently visited Saudi Arabia, Algeria, and Tunisia, has said his country's return to the Arab League would be almost impossible before correcting bilateral relations. The thaw in relations between Riyadh and Damascus is part of a wider trend that has been seen in Saudi Arabia and main rival Iran agreeing to restore ties in a regional realignment aimed at easing tensions as economic priorities take precedence for Gulf states. And watch this space. Remember, your engagement through a like, a share, or a sub will accelerate us at warp speed towards the continuation of our mission to truthfully go where no news will have been going before. From Middle East Eye, Saudi Arabia hosts top Palestinian Fatah and Hamas officials. Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas and Hamas Politburo Ismail Haniyeh and other officials are in Riyadh. Saudi Arabia is hosting on Monday Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas and Hamas Politburo Ismail Haniyeh, who is on his first trip to Riyadh in over a decade. Abbas is visiting Riyadh with Hussein al-Sheikh, the Secretary General of the Executive Committee of the Palestinian Liberation Organization, the PLO, and Majid Faraj, the head of the Palestine Authority's General Intelligence Service. Abbas and Haniyeh met face-to-face in Algeria in July 2022 for the first time in 5 years. It's unclear if they'll meet in Riyadh to iron out their disputes or if the Saudi-sponsored talks will be held separately behind closed doors. The PA, which is dominated by the Fatah Party and Hamas, the de facto ruler of the Gaza Strip, have been at odds over a range of political disagreements since 2007. 2 weeks ago, Saudi Arabia's King Salman invited Abbas to an official iftar in the last days of Ramadan. Bassem al-Agha, Palestine's ambassador to Saudi Arabia, told the Voice of Palestine radio that Abbas will arrive in Saudi Arabia on Monday and will hold his meetings on Tuesday. There is continuous communication with the leadership of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia that's distinguished and well-established stances towards Palestine. He said, adding that the visit will discuss the latest political developments. Last December, Abbas attended the Arab-Chinese summit in Riyadh and met Chinese President Xi Jinping on the sidelines. On Sunday, Haniyeh headed a Hamas delegation to Riyadh with Salah al-Aruri, his deputy, Musa Abu Marzouk, a member of the Hamas Political Bureau. Also, Khalid Michel, the head of the group abroad, was in attendance. The delegation will reportedly first pay a pilgrimage to Islam's holiest site in Mecca. A source close to Hamas told Andalu agency that the delegation is scheduled to meet with Saudi officials to discuss a number of issues related to Palestinian and regional affairs and bilateral issues between the kingdom and the movement. The issue of Palestinian detainees in Saudi Arabia will top the agenda of the Hamas visit, as it's scheduled to take several days, the source said. On Saturday, Abu Marzouk tweeted that Hamas is not part of any political or military axis, regardless of name and address. We are an Islamic resistance movement, and we seek relations with all living forces in the region and the world. The tweet, posted just ahead of a meeting with Saudi officials, was perhaps also meant to assuage the perception in Riyadh that Hamas is too close to Iran. Saudi authorities earlier this year released 2 Palestinians with close ties to Hamas from prison. Suleiman Haddad and his son Yahya Haddad were among nearly 68 Palestinians and Jordanians arrested in 2019 over accusations of having links to an unidentified terrorist organization. Zionist aggression. Michel was the last high-ranking Hamas official to visit Saudi Arabia in 2015. Saudi Arabia was a mediator in reconciliation talks between the Fatah movement and Hamas and the sponsor of the Mecca Agreement in February 2007. Abbas and Haniya's visit came at a time of increased Zionist aggression against Palestinian Muslim and Christian worshippers in the Old City in occupied East Jerusalem and occupiers' assaults on Palestine villages in the occupied West Bank. Abbas said on Sunday that Zionist assaults on Christians celebrating the Holy Saturday in the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in occupied Jerusalem, in occupied Al-Quds, which were preceded by attacks on worshippers in the Blessed Al-Aqsa Mosque and the desecration of its courtyards, is something condemned and rejected. This exposes the falsity of the occupation, which claims to allow freedom of worship in holy places, he added. And from the cradle, Hamas PA leaders in KSA as regional powers rekindle ties. By hosting Palestinian leaders, the kingdom signaling a move away from normalization with the Zionists. Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas arrived in Saudi Arabia and is set to meet with Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman today, 18 April, to discuss the latest developments of the Palestine cause and the situation in the region, and to strengthen the Palestinian-Saudi relations, Wafa news agency reported. The Al-Quds Al-Arabi reported that Abbas's visit coincided with that of senior Hamas delegation headed by Politburo Chief Ismail Haniyeh. Though this was not confirmed by Riyadh, Hamas sources reported that Haniyeh, international relations official Musa Abu Marzouk, head of the Wounded and Prisoners Office, Zahir Jabarin, and the movement's head abroad, Khalid Michel, were all in the kingdom, presumably for religious reasons, during Ramadan. However, the visit follows a significant improvement in Saudi Arabia's relationship with Iran, currently a Hamas ally, and ongoing efforts to resume official and diplomatic relations between the two countries. Saudi Arabia shocked observers and reached a deal to reestablish relations with Iran following extensive talks sponsored by Beijing in early March. According to the Times of Israel, a trip by a senior Hamas delegation to Saudi Arabia represents a major development as Zionist hopes of forging official ties with Riyadh appear to dwindle further. End quote. Upon his return to office as prime minister in December, Benjamin Netanyahu had prioritized including the kingdom in the Abraham Accords, which saw the UAE and Bahrain normalize relations with Tel Aviv in 2020. Netanyahu had hoped to unite with Saudi Arabia against their common regional rival Iran. However, Riyadh became reluctant to normalize with Zionists, not only following its reconciliation with Iran, but also following increased raids by the Zionist military in the occupied West Bank increased home demolitions and increased settlement building following Netanyahu's inclusion of extremist settlers such as Itamar Ben-Gvir and Bezalel Smotrich as ministers in his cabinet. And just a note here, this idea that the UAE and Bahrain normalized relations with Tel Aviv with the Abraham Accords, I have a feeling, well, it's just a feeling, but I have a premonition, and to be honest with you, politically it is more advantageous for the UAE and Bahrain to recognize that they are moving away from that in some ways. And of course, in succession, Qatar, it seems. These moves were then followed by a Zionist settler pogrom against Palestinians in Huwara, as well as call from Smotrich to wipe out the West Bank town that was strongly condemned by Saudi officials. The U.S. media reported last week that Saudi Arabia had become reluctant to normalize ties with Zionists as a result. The Saudi move appears to further isolate Zionists regionally, which is already worried that its long covert war with Iran and its allies is moving into an unpredictable new phase. As the Wall Street Journal reported on 15 April, the Wall Street Journal cited concerns that the resistance axis, including Iran, Syria, Hezbollah, Hamas, and the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, is coordinating its response to recent Zionist violence in Syria and occupied Palestine under the leadership of Quds Force Commander Ismail Khani. The Times of Israel noted further that Saudi-Hamas relations had been poor since 2007, as Saudi leaders had blamed Hamas for the failure of attempts at reconciliation between Hamas and the Palestinian Authority's Fatah party. In 2019, Saudi authorities arrested dozens of Hamas militants, saying they were threatening the kingdom's rule, but in recent months, Hamas leaders sent messages that they would like to improve ties, after which Saudi Arabia released many of these detainees, including senior member Mohammed al-Khodari. Also from Middle East Eye, Saudi Arabia to host first Hamas delegation in over a decade. Palestinian leaders, including Ismail Haniyeh, to travel to Riyadh on Monday to discuss improving relations after years of tension. Ismail Haniyeh, a senior political leader of the Palestinian movement Hamas and de facto ruler of the besieged Gaza Strip, is shown in a pic here, and Hamas political chief Ismail Haniyeh will visit Saudi Arabia on Monday for the first such visit in years, according to Palestinian media sources. A senior delegation from the group will lead to Riyadh after years of frosty relations with the kingdom, which has arrested many people with ties to the group. While there has been or has not been official confirmation of the trip from Riyadh, the delegation is expected to hold talks with Saudi officials on a number of Palestinian and regional issues, as well as bilateral relations between Hamas and the kingdom. According to Palestine media outlets, the issue of Palestine detainees in Saudi Arabia will top the agenda of talks. Following its landmark rapprochement with Iran, Riyadh is looking to also reset its relationship with Hamas. The high-level delegation includes Hamas Politburo Chief Haniyeh, his deputy Saleh al-Aruri, and the head of the group abroad, Khaled Mishal, according to various Palestinian and Arab League or Arab language media outlets. The delegation will reportedly first pay a pilgrimage to Islam's holiest site in Mecca. Islamic resistance movement Hamas's relationship with Riyadh has been frosty since 2007. When the group took over the Gaza Strip, Saudi leaders have blamed Hamas for the failure of attempts at reconciliation between it and the Palestinian Authority's ruling Fatah party. On Saturday, Musa Abu Marzouk, a member of the Hamas Political Bureau, went on Twitter to say, "Hamas is not part of any political or military axis, regardless of name and address. We are an Islamic resistance movement, and we seek relations with all living forces in the region and the world." The tweet, posted just ahead of a meeting with the Saudi state, is or was perhaps also meant to assuage the perception in Riyadh that Hamas is too close to Iran, and Saudi authorities earlier this year released 2 Palestinians with close ties to Hamas from prison. Suleiman Haddad and his son Yahya Haddad were among nearly 68 Palestinians and Jordanians arrested in 2019 and accused of having links to an unidentified terrorist organization. The group was tried in mass trials in 2020 and a year later handed prison sentences ranging from 6 months to 22 years. Following the release, Izzat al-Rashk, a member of Hamas political bureau, thanked the Saudi government, considering it a significant step in the right direction. In October last year, Saudi Arabia also released the former representative of Hamas after more than 3 years in detention. Mohammed al-Khudari, 84, was released along with his son Hani al-Khudari and deported to Jordan. Saudi Arabia and Hamas have enjoyed a close relationship since the group's inception more than 30 years ago. A number of its founders and close associates lived in the Gulf Kingdom, where large donation campaigns were launched for the movement and its charitable institutions, some with official Saudi blessing. In recent months, Hamas leaders have sent signals that they would like to mend ties with the kingdom. In turn, Saudi Arabia's released detainees. Saudi Arabia's warming of relations with Hamas is also likely to dampen hopes that the kingdom will establish diplomatic relations with the Zionists. Recent reports in the U.S. media suggest that Riyadh has cooled on the idea amid ongoing violence in the West Bank. From Aram Online, Saudi Crown Prince, Palestinian President tackle occupied territory developments in Jeddah. Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman met on Wednesday with Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas in Jeddah. The talks focused on developments in the Palestinian territory, Saudi and Palestinian media reported. The two leaders stressed the importance of ongoing efforts to secure the legitimate rights of the Palestinian people and establish an independent Palestine state with Al-Quds as its capital in accordance with the Arab Peace Initiative and relevant international resolutions, the Saudi Press Agency reported. Abbas's visit to Saudi Arabia comes following weeks of tension and violence between Zionist and Palestine in Al-Quds and the West Bank. In addition, cross-border fire between Zionists and Lebanon have sparked fears of renewed conflict. The visit of the chairman of the Palestine Authority coincides with the arrival of senior Hamas delegation headed by Ismail Haniyeh in Saudi Arabia. The visit is the first by Hamas officials to the kingdom since 2015. The Hamas delegation performed Umrah on Tuesday with videos circulated on social media showing Hamas leaders Haniyeh and Khalid Meshal performing the Umrah in Mecca. A Hamas source told Anadolu news agency the group is scheduled to hold talks with Saudi officials to discuss the latest Palestinian developments and Hamas-Saudi relations. It's yet unclear whether Abbas and Haniyeh will meet during this visit to Saudi Arabia, according to Anadolu. During Hamas' 2015 visit to Saudi Arabia, Meshal met with King Salman bin Abdulaziz and senior Saudi officials. I'm going to open up a channel.
Beam me up, Mr. Spark. Beam me up. Lock on transporters. Beam us up. Beam us up. Quickly. Beam us up home. Beam us up.
Prepare to beam us up, Mr. Scott. Beam us up, Mr. Scott.
Prepare to beam us up. Mr. Scott, prepare to beam us up. Have Scotty beam us up. Beam us up. Beam us up. Scotty, beam us up fast.
Stand by to beam us up.
Scotty, beam me up.
Beam me up. Beam us up now!
Stand by to beam us up.
No need to beam me up, sir. The situation is under control.